As the partial government shutdown enters its sixth week, Republicans and Democrats in Congress seem nowhere near an agreement to fund the Department of Homeland Security, even as TSA agents go without their second paycheck and airports across the country see hours-long security lines. The negotiations appear to have stalled as of today, as Democrats stand firm on their refusal to fund ICE or Border Patrol without reforms, and Republicans are refusing to separate funding for those agencies in a compromise to fund TSA and FEMA. New Jersey's junior U.S. Senator Andy Kim has been an outspoken member of the Homeland Security Committee, pressing the newly confirmed DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin on some key issues during his recent confirmation hearings. He joins us now to discuss all of it. Senator, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
At the time that we are talking right now, where do Democrats stand on negotiations to fund or not DHS?
Well, we're fully ready to fund the parts of DHS that haven't been funded, and that includes TSA. We need to move forward. I mean, we're seeing huge lines at Newark Airport and elsewhere. This is something that the American people are demanding. Let's move forward, fund TSA. We're in the middle of this Iran war. We should have the cybersecurity efforts that we need. FEMA is so important to New Jersey. You know, Coast Guard is so important.
Senator, what are the stipulations tied to that funding for your party?
For those parts of DHS, there's nothing contingent. You know, we're willing to move forward with full funding to those aspects of DHS that aren't getting paid. You know who is getting paid right now? ICE is getting paid right now. They're getting paid because of the reconciliation bill. So why in the world are the Republicans holding up funding to those federal officers and agents when it comes to TSA and others? Why are they holding up their pay because of ICE when ICE is already paid through the reconciliation? It makes no sense to me.
So do you want to see a complete severing of funding in this bill for ICE and CPB, or is it contingent upon reforms that Democrats have been calling for, like body-worn cameras, like masks coming off, other things like that?
Well, the reforms, the negotiation of the reforms are still far apart. This is something that's been ongoing. And so, look, I'd still like to see those negotiations continue on, because that's what the American people are demanding, are reforms. But since that's going to take some time, let's move forward and fund the parts of DHS that we can agree on. What I'm asking from the Republicans is the same thing that they did with us a couple of weeks ago, which is we said we still have negotiations about DHS. Let's fund the rest of the U.S. government and focus in on what we still have outstanding agreements on. That's the same thing that I'm saying here. Why don't we now zoom in on DHS, fund what we do agree on, and zoom in on and focus on that which we have disagreement on? So they were willing to do this when it came to the broader government funding. Let's just do that within DHS now.
If there is no agreement to split off that ICE and CPB funding, and as I understand it, also payment for the secretary, do you then leave these TSA agents without a paycheck even further? At what point does there have to be some compromise from your party as well as from Republicans?
Yeah, look, and we have come to that compromise. You know, we have put forward that we're willing to fund these different entities. We've done that in the past. We can and should do it now. And look, it is absolutely wrong for these TSA agents and others to have to work without pay. You know, I was a federal civil servant before. I worked through multiple shutdowns without getting paid. It's wrong. It should be illegal. This should not happen. And that's why we need to be able to remedy this as quickly as possible. Make sure all who are not getting paid get paid. And like I said, ICE officers are getting paid right now. I think that that's wrong that they're able to get pay and the rest are not. So let's just move forward and pay everybody.
It's a scene that we see in airports as ICE agents are there standing alongside TSA workers who are not getting paid. The ICE agents are. The president has said that he wants any deal tied to passage of the Save America Act. Is that something that Democrats would be willing to compromise on at all? Republicans say this is common sense to ensure the security of our elections. Democrats have been opposed to it. Is there any room for compromise on that bill?
Yeah, the president's idea of holding TSA hostage for the Save America Act is just a stupid idea. It's one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard him say when it comes to these negotiations. And I know a lot of Republicans in Congress also think that this is just a huge tactical mistake. The American people are in lines 3, 4 hours long. We got spring break coming up for so many families around our country and so much other business that needs to be done. The idea that he wants to hold that up for this very controversial bill that would essentially, I mean, there was just an amendment that was, that's being considered that would essentially cut all mail-in ballots in this country. That would affect so many seniors and so many others that are affected. There's so many implications to this that the American people need to learn about and be able to understand as we're having this debate. The idea that he's going to hold up something so urgent like TSA, the fact that we're at a war because of him, because of Trump, without Congress's and the American people's approval, and yet we're not funding fully our cybersecurity agency. These are the things that the president is deeply out of touch with.
Yeah.
I really couldn't believe that he said something that was so idiotic.
Let me
I
ask
guess
you this.
maybe I shouldn't be concerned. I shouldn't be surprised, given that we've certainly seen that from him in so many other ways, too.
You pressed the new Secretary of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin, on the Roxbury Detention Center that's coming, that's already in the plans here in New Jersey. He had said to you, if he can't explain why it's there, then that's a different story, when you asked him whether or not it should be there. Have you heard whether or not he will be visiting that site, whether he will try to explain the justification for that site moving forward?
Well, he did make that commitment in his confirmation hearing to come to Roxbury, and I'm going to hold him to that. I've had multiple conversations about this, but I thought it was important and telling that in the confirmation hearing, Mullin did say that he thought it was wrong that ICE moved forward without engagement and agreement with the local officials and leadership. He also pointed out that, yes, there are huge problems when you're trying to convert a warehouse the size of 3 football fields into something that is meant to hold nearly 2,000 people between detainees and staff.
And as Governor Sherrill said, with only 4 toilets, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is something that is enormously problematic, and it's incredibly expensive. I mean, the U.S. government spent $130 million of taxpayer dollars just to buy the warehouse. They're telling me it could cost upwards of $160 million or more just to retrofit it into a detention facility, and then another $160 million for wraparound service. So we're talking about $500 million just to be able to get before even detainees can be in this building. I mean, I can certainly think of a lot better things that we can be doing for New Jersey with $500 million.
Just very quickly, you also asked him about a policy that former Secretary Kristi Noem had put in place where she had to approve anything through FEMA over $100,000. Are you satisfied with his response there, that he would revoke that policy?
Well, yes, I'm going to hold him to that as well, because that policy of Noam's also goes in the Hall of Fame of stupid ideas, because it's just something that was holding back on the important need to families struggling after disasters. It held up funding to Texas, for instance, after that tragic flood incident last year. So this needs to change. It needs to change immediately, especially before we get into hurricane season in New Jersey. Yeah. So I am going to hold him to that. At this point, do have confidence that will go away, but I've come to understand, I'm not going to take anything for granted. I'm going to make sure we're pressing to have that formally revoked as he comes into the position.
And for the record, you did vote no on his confirmation hearing, but we do have to leave it there. Thank you, as always, for your time today, Senator, U.S. Senator Andy Kim.
Thank you.